Oop. Buenos dias. Ah, I don't have the chat thingy up. Un momento. Sorry about that. It's a little chaotic here at the home studio, running on limited sleep. Let's check our audio. Okay, I think we are live. Chat is up. Let me fix a few things here. Ah, take a sip. Buen provecho. Okay, what in the world is going on here? Where am I? I am back home after roughly 13 hours of total travel. It is quite a long day from Berlin to the airport to getting through security, hanging out in the glorious Avianca Lounge, and then boarding through the wheelchair Olympics at each gate, and then a nice uneventful flight back to LAX. We came in an hour early, basically. I was very confused, but had the obligatory 30-minute wait at the luggage carousel at LAX. So more on that probably, maybe. And then finally made it home. Got home by 11:30 last night. I was absolutely thrilled because I was expecting to get home by 12:30. So raise a cup. It is Friday. I survived. Okay. Wait, what's going on here? There we go. So, ask a question. What are you working on? What are you doing? Um, that's me at Lake Ilopango in El Salvador. It is outside of San Salvador, and it is gorgeous. Apparently, there aren't too many resorts or overlooks. It isn't very commercialized yet, but this is an overlooked something San Francisco, interestingly. And there's a restaurant there. It's kind of a place where people in San Salvador can get out of town from the heat and the traffic and go and enjoy a beautiful, stunning view, get some food, and let the kids play around. Really nice. Gorgeous, gorgeous view. And so we went there. Very nice. That was on Sunday. So the weekend, El fin de semana, we did a San Salvador road trip. And that starts with a roughly 3 hour drive. Thank you, Ronald, for driving Fatima and I, and Mauricio and Jocelyn went separately. But yeah, we drove into town and I sat in the back seat so I could work on a statement of work. So it was perfect. I had a solid 2 hours of occasionally bumpy roads, and I crafted a very nice statement of work that I'm actually proud of. It was rather intricate, very technical, very detailed. Had to think of just all the possible problems, exceptions, complications that could have come up for this particular project. Wanted to cover all my bases. So, and you will notice over on the bottom left, those are sandias. Those are watermelons that we picked up at the roadside stall. And there we are, piled in the car on on that must have been, I don't even know if that was Saturday or Sunday, but yeah, when we were driving around San Salvador, we piled in the car, so we only had to drive around in one car. So that's the crew. And we stopped. Oh, we stayed at a place called Hotel Ramini. It's in the city. I forget what area it is, but nice little kind of boutique hotel. And El Salvador has lots of these, varying degrees of quality, but this one was really nice. It was like $47 a night, I think, if I'm not mistaken, $48 a night for a single room. Really nice, perfectly comfortable. Only a few, minor Salvadoran flair touches that a foreigner might not be used to, but it was very nice based on my experience. 48 bucks, it was a steal. And we went to the roastery, the underground, confidential, undisclosed location of the Rack Roasters. That is Gabe there. And that is where all of the, Good Beans El Salvador coffee is roasted. And that's a Mill City um, roaster in the background, very fancy, computer controlled. Nickname is the Whopper or Joshua. And if you've seen War Games, you'll understand that reference. And that is because that roaster is a bit temperamental, has a lot of sensors, a lot of electronics in it, and occasionally those parts don't work perfectly. So Gabe has to monitor and babysit it and keep it running basically all weekend. So he roasted us a custom 5 pound bag called the Block, or semi custom. And so we got that for the office, and I picked up some Toragos, his house blend. And yeah, we had a good time there. Got to see the roastery. And then we headed over to Plaza Merliot, right across the street. And there is a store in there called Zona Digital. And if you're like a gamer and a PC nerd, oh sorry, um, Fatima, I'm covering you up. But if you are a PC gamer nerd, you will know what this is about. You notice the Corsair logo, and sorry, let me just see if I'm not even going to try to fix it. Sorry, I have not had enough sleep or coffee to to do on the fly live changes here. But we went there to check out parts for a higher end streaming slash gaming PC just to see what the costs are if we bought in El Salvador. I could attempt to lug all the parts in my luggage, but that is a wee bit of a hassle. I did get a video card. I had a spare RTX 3060, so I brought that over. But I'd rather not bring a case and a monitor and motherboard and all that stuff. And we may have them build it depending on the price, just so that we know it works. And, if you've ever built a PC, you know that you can have RAM issues, and the RAM isn't compatible with the motherboard or CPU, and it kind of freaks out. And it can be a painful process. Usually it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. So we checked out pricing there. So that was fun. It was pretty fancy store, honestly. I've never seen anything like it in a mall in the US. So that was cool. And then we headed over to the authentic Salvadoran experience, which is the Bennigan's Irish Pub or restaurant, whatever you want to call it. And I've never heard of Bennigan's in the United States. It's not kind of my thing. Maybe it exists, but there is a Bennigan's in San Salvador, and apparently it is a favorite of all of the Berliners. So we went to Bennigan's, and I had I don't know, potato soup, I think, right? Authentic Salvadoran cuisine. And I had onion rings, which it turns out are stacked about a foot tall. They weigh about a pound each. It was an interesting experience. I was like, I'm in the middle of the Midwest. Um, Oh, Ted says the modern motherboards with LEDs tell you if parts are bad incompatible. Makes it easier if something doesn't work. So I'm familiar with it's like the single red light on the motherboard, and it'll give you the one beep or one blink, three blink, whatever, depending on what the issue is. However, I have had issues where it boots, works fine, but then I get just blue screens after a couple of days, I get random blue screens left and right, and I got new memory, swapped out the memory, and it was fine. So sometimes it's incompatible memory, sometimes it's bad memory because like I bought from Amazon and it looked kind of like it had been opened and swapped out. So, stuff like that. So if we have them build it, we have them warranty in it. It just removes the hassle, and I don't have to build it in California and drag it over there. So, yeah. Oh, multiple LEDs now. Nice. Yeah, like it would be nice if they just put a saying, hey, that memory is not compatible, CPU issue, power supply issue, whatever. It'd be great if they had more onboard diagnostics. Sounds like they're moving in that direction. And one thing I learned from, I forget, like it was a YouTube build video. This guy's showing, it was Tom's Hardware, Tom's Tech, whatever. He was doing a build, sponsored build. And apparently now, first time I've heard of it, the motherboards now have the connections on the back of the motherboard. So your power routes from the back of the motherboard through the case. So you need to be set up to prepare for this. And the motherboard, excuse me, the case mounting and standoffs need to have the holes for the cables to route straight back from the board. I grew up in the age of IDE ribbon cables and serial cables and, 386s and, IRQs. So this blows my mind. And it turns out that Zona Digital has those cases with the holes around the back of the mounting board. So yeah, we may just have them do it. Same here, Ted. First time I've seen it, I'm like, whoa, wait. I had to pause it, stare at this, like what? All the cables went straight back. This was power connectors, the SATA connectors, everything. I was very confused. I don't know if it's some motherboards have this, some don't, but it produced this perfectly clean build from the CPU side, zero visible cables on the motherboard. It was truly wild. So I don't know if that's normal now. Every time I build a PC, I have to like relearn the entire process because all the components are different, models are different, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, we may do that. We may not. I may steal my daughter's gaming PC when she goes off to college. We'll have to wait a year and then I'll just take that instead. But anyway. Okay, so then we went to Bennigan's and then Centro Historico. That is the Binaes, I don't know. It's Binaes, and that is the Biblioteca. That is the new library in historic center downtown San Salvador. I have been there when it was under construction. I have been there when it was open, but there was a line around the block because you had to stand in line, make reservations or whatever to get in. It is now open. It's open 24 hours a day. We were down there at like 10:30 p.m. and it's beautiful. We're just strolling around, having a good time. And we got a pretty full tour of the library. It's very nice. Like for El Salvador, it is quite a sight to behold. So gorgeous, really neat. They have these giant, like 75-inch TVs with a chair 3 feet away where kids can game. And I'm like, how do you get whiplash? It's like, it's like surround cinema, but all these gaming stations, all these really cool library nooks. So really, really neat library. And then weekly projects. I was in Berlin, El Salvador, obviously, until yesterday, Thursday. And so we worked on a lot of stuff. We fought with the weather cam and Wi-Fi. We learned a lot, and we realized that we need to go for Network 2.0 in Berlin. It is time. We continued, by we, I mean Ronald. We continued document capture work, and I had a couple calls regarding custom data imports, and maybe it's just my debate, but I call it the debate of build versus buy, and how do you do data imports and integrations. it's a challenge, and it's cost versus bespoke imports and what features do you need, and do you need 2, do you need 10? We'll get into that. And then we continued the work on our new product, the Bill.com MEM integration, and boy, is it a doozy. Yeah, and that is a mural in Berlin, El Salvador. Every morning I drag myself out of bed and I go for a walk around town and yeah, take pictures of the cool murals and interesting sights and scenes in Berlin. On Monday, what do we got going on? I was in the office from 8 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. working nonstop. Oh, it was a long, long day. Um, so got some work done in the morning, met with the team in the afternoon, fought with the camera and the Wi-Fi and all this other stuff during the day. And then I cooked dinner, and then we had Berlin English Academy, and then I had a call with our Indian headquarters, and then I finally just collapsed. Worked on a statement of work for the complex AL Dev project. And I still need to do a clause on IP ownership. It is a real challenge to do a proper IP ownership clause in a statement of work or master services agreement. Um, so I can hire a lawyer, pay $500,000 for the clause, or I can try to mumble through some GPT slop. I'm not sure what we're going to do. I'd like to do it right. We'll see. So we have a video doorbell at the office. We have Wise cameras at the office in Berlin, and I brought over a video doorbell. Works great in theory, but it is on the other side of the concrete and steel wall and gate of our compound. And that makes it pretty much the worst place to place it for Wi-Fi signal. So the Wi-Fi signal has to go through at least 2 or 3 walls, like thick concrete and steel walls, to get to the doorbell. So understandably, the Wi-Fi is spotty. We did fix the power supply. Turns out we were using the incorrect power supply on that doorbell, so we upgraded that to the proper 24-volt doorbell power supply. So that resolved one issue, but we still had Wi-Fi issues. And our weather cam is having the same issue. The Wi-Fi just isn't reliable enough. And when there's a power outage, the camera cycles and interrupts our live weather cam feed. So I just said, hey, stop. We know we have problems now. We need to go to Network 2.0. We're going to run some hardwire. We're going to install Unify access points, which I already have deployed out there, or staged out there, I should say. So we just need to set it up, run some wires, and bite the bullet and go for it. Just like everything else we've had to do. All new electrical, all new plumbing, all new roof, all new networking, right? And finally, after a very long day, I made some homemade chili and cornbread and rice. Tried to do a home cooked meal there, and holy cow, it is exhausting. Appreciate if you do things like buy canned beans, canned tomatoes, things like that from your home grocery store. I was chopping tomatoes by hand. All the ingredients pretty much were different, so I survived. It took a very long time to cook just basic pot of chili, rice, and cornbread there, but it was good. Had some of that, and then Ronald was hosting a Berlin English Academy meeting, so he didn't even get to eat dinner until later. So he was running that meeting, and so they were doing some presentations there. Hats off to Ronald for that. So it was a late night for everyone. And on Tuesday, Martez, I got to bed early, only 8 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Buenos dias, new BC update. It's minor, but if you have been paying attention, I opened my email to see this slightly improved environment update notification. I like it. I appreciate it. It's subtle but good. It's simplified. My impression. It's cleaner. It's easier to read. current version, scheduled update version, scheduled date, and they put the update window in local time. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias. And it's just less cluttered, less noisy. And the only downside I see is they tell you which environment is going to be upgraded, but they appear to have hidden the tenant name, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that was a mistake. I think because we've got like 10 tenants. I know most customers don't, but all partners and ISVs, they've got to deal with this. So yeah, I think we want the tenant name back, Microsoft, if you're listening, please. Okay, so that's the new BC update notification. I like it. Custom import design. We had a call with a partner who's looking for a custom BC import for his customer, and he's well aware of configuration packages and import tools, but his customers don't want to copy and paste data. They don't want to deal with this rigid import template. They just want to take their file format, click a button, or not even click a button, just have the data import. So we're exploring options for that. And so configuration packages, not popular. And no, in SiteWorks, import-export power tool would not be an option either. We're talking single Excel file, multiple worksheets, click one button or drag a file, or don't even click a button, have a scheduled import, have it create customers and create invoices and do X, Y, and Z. So multiple operations in a single task. So we're exploring how could we do that. And so then I did some Bill.com MEM integration testing with our pilot customer, and that is a complex animal. We have multi-organization mapping between BC and Bill.com. So multiple entities in BC map to the multiple organizations in Bill.com, assigned entity, syncing of vendors, invoices, payments, geo accounts. It's the whole ball of wax, the whole enchilada, folks. And it is very complex. So we're doing some final testing there. We're code complete, just need to track down some bugs. And there are some complexities in the usage. So we're trying to identify those and see if we can simplify it. But it's looking good, almost there. And yeah, so we're doing that testing and hope to release in a week or two. Statement of work training with Fatima. So Fatima is the newest member on our team, and she's coming on. She is learning English and learning BC. And as she does that, I am asking her to do PMI, PMP training to be potentially our project manager for the team in Berlin. And so I'd love to have a PMP certified project manager on staff. And part of that is for her to understand how we create statement of work documents, project plans, and how we conduct our projects following the statement of work. So we reviewed a couple statements of work. I showed her the caveats of what I'm concerned about in those statements of work, how we come up with budgets, task line estimates, follow those, don't follow those, depending on it is, deal with change requests, customer interpretations as to scope, right? We all know what that's like. So she is being pulled into the deep end very quickly. She does 3 hours a week, 3 hours a day, 3 hours a day of English classes and studying. And then she comes in the office, works with us. She's going to be working on project management. She handles all of the inventory and asset management in the office. As you'll see, we have laptops, we have networking gear, we have supplies. I show up, I forget my mouse. I say, Fatima, do we have an extra mouse? Boom, there she goes. A Logitech Wireless MX S2 or whatever it's called. I'm like, cool, I'm up and running. So we have a pretty good setup there. PTE practices with Franklin. Franklin was working on a simple PTE, but I swear we ran into every dumb, minor, annoying problem that you could possibly run into. It was literally one field on a report extension. Add external document number to this random report. Like, How hard can it be, right? Famous last words. Effectively, BC was fine, but he ran into every possible complication, speed bump, hurdle. It was wild. We're looking at it like how it was crazy. So it was actually a good lesson because it was a simple PT and better to run into all these stupid problems while we're doing a simple one field PT than a complex PT, right? So it should have taken less than 1 hour to add the field, build, test, deploy, run pipelines, and have an artifact. And, it turned out to take 3 days. Like, seriously, it was pretty crazy. So he's learning the hard way. I'm uncovering some crazy stuff with our PT pipelines, but we think we have it solved. Thank you, Dave, for fixing that. Turns out the last thing we had after troubleshooting literally everything in our entire process was we had it's like a SAS storage key for our Azure storage that had expired. It's like, come on. So we have lots of moving pieces for better or worse, right? When you have automated processes, it gets more complex, things break. And when something expires once every 6 months or once every 2 years, it's like, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. It just becomes really difficult to maintain and remember what's going on. And then we had another Berlin English Academy class that Ronald hosted. Take a break. Okay, I moved on from a latte to the Flatlands coffee. This is an Americano. Cheers. Mm, that is hot. Okay, tangy. If you have not tried, if you like a very, very, very light roast, check out Flatlands Coffee. They have some, that's kind of their specialty, is super light roast coffees. And it is not cheap, let me tell you. It's perhaps the most expensive coffee that I've purchased. But if you buy multiple bags, at least in my case, they credited me for shipping, so that was nice. And if you sign up for their regular subscription, once a week, once a month, whatever, I believe it is a reduced price plus free shipping. So check them out if you're looking for a cafe adventure. So on Wednesday, Ronald continued to work on the Continua document capture user guide, just because there's a lot of steps in the process. We're about to train some users who are coming over from another AP automation solution for Dynamics GP. They're moving over to Continua, so it's all new. So he's just going to come up with a simple user guide for these users to get oriented, trained, and reference for future use. And still has a few things to add to it, but he's wrapping that up now. And then I worked with Tanya to review a potential customization for sales order to purchase order field transfer. And it turns out, after a call with her, I kind of talked her down from the ledge of a customization, and she was able to figure out how to use Simple Object Designer. She thought it couldn't do what she wanted, but after some random guessing on my side, she figured out that Simple Object Designer apparently could do what she wanted, and that is custom fields on the sales order, custom fields on the purchase order, and they're essentially the same. So she wants to transfer those custom fields from the sales order to the purchase order when it is created. And I need to check in with her. She's in the middle of nowhere, but when she returns to civilization, I'll see how she did. Apparently, she was able to figure out how to do it with Simple Object Designer. So that's one less statement of work I need to do. I'm okay with that. And then, holy cow, this was a continuation on the simple PTE. Simple PTE. Just one field on a report extension, right? How hard can it be? This was like day 2 of that process where Franklin said, oh, so I can email the app file to Jocelyn to test. And the lesson is, folks, our internal rule, no one ever goes into VS Code, builds an app file, and emails it out. Absolutely never, ever No one does that in our organization. That is like firing a fence. That is liability. That is no es bueno, if that is the correct phrase. We have an internal procedure where we never, ever have a developer build something in VS Code and email it off. And I've talked about this many, many, many episodes ago. That is an invitation for trouble. The only way that an app file, a PTE, an artifact, anything makes it out of the door in our organization or out of our dev process is if it is developed and tested in VS Code, in dev scope, in the dev sandbox. And then once it is code complete and tested by the dev, it is then committed, it is checked into DevOps. And once and we only have PRs, so there's a branch that is submitted to that branch, it is committed, checked in, PR. The PR must be approved. We run set autocomplete in DevOps, and that triggers our Alpaca pipeline. Period. No exceptions. We never ever email off or share an app file prior to that. Only once the pipeline runs successfully does the file get pushed to Azure Storage, which then gets automatically copied to our SharePoint, our consulting team SharePoint, and an email goes out to everyone. That is our only procedure for extension, release, and testing. So Franklin learned that lesson, like it was new to him. So he's like, oh, I'm just going to email this off. So I explained, no, we never share the dev scope PTE. So we started working the pipeline, right? It's our standard pipeline. How hard can it be? And that started day 2 and 3 of our never-ending how hard can it be? It's just one field report extension. Oh my gosh. So as I see here, DevOps plus Alpaca, we've got a commit and we've got a pull request. We then kick off our pipelines, and we discovered for this one pipeline, it was just, part of it was Franklin learning, part of it was me learning because I don't normally do this. Our developer Dave handles this or has handled this. So Franklin and I are learning. We called it the blind learning. The blind, we bumbled through this. If you're familiar with Alpaca, there are lots of configuration options. So we had DevOps. He got the code into DevOps. I had to fight with the PR, fight with the approval, fight with the pipelines. We then had several configuration options. We had incorrect in our app.json, the Cosmo JSON, and the Alpaca YAML file. Finally figured all that out, and that's when we discovered we had an old expired SAS key. Anyway, thank you, Dave. Finally figured it out. And we did have lunch on Wednesday, so that is the entire team in Berlin, El Salvador. Rare photo where we're all in the same place at the same time, particularly me, but they're also having various things they got to deal with. So they were all in the office on Wednesday, so we had lunch. That is David, Fatima, Franklin, Jocelyn, and Ronald in Pica, Pica in Berlin, El Salvador. And if you've been to Berlin, you know Pica Restaurante. So, yeah, we had a good time. It was a great lunch, and that was Wednesday before I headed out. And this may be a little critical, but I don't think so. I'm sorry. Power Automate is just not a production grade solution, in my humble opinion. Why, you might ask? One moment. While I sneeze. It normally runs fine. Yes, I give it credit. But then it just randomly stops working for any number of reasons. This time, it's because all of my connections, the authentication expired. Oh, come on. And maybe it sent me an email. I don't know. But I just don't want to deal with this. I go to log in. I try to re-authenticate, but I don't have the premium license. So what does it do? It disables the flows because I attempted to look into and edit and test the flows. So I then have to go have Ronald check it out, test, make sure everything works. And Ted, yes, absolutely. This is the nightmare du jour for every organization. And it's everything, right? It's SSL certs, it's API keys, it's OAuth, whatever, it's certificates, and it is Power Automate logins. They all just, I get it. The tokens expire, the keys expire, the certificates expire. Nightmare. Now, I do use, what is the tool? Like the one tool I do use, I get SSL notification, expiration notifications from my hosting provider, but I use Kuma, Uptime Kuma, to track the SSL certs, and I know someone else recommended that. It's probably Ted. Um, so Uptime Kuma does have an SSL cert notification, so that's one thing, but API keys. So yes, absolute nightmare. You got to track them somewhere. The keys don't say, hey, I'm about to expire in a month. You got to, reissue them. And we have API keys. We have SAS tokens in Azure. I don't know. It's like the nightmare of housekeeping where just stuff breaks. And because you don't touch it for 2 years, it stops working. And you just got to spend 2 days figuring out why it expired, figure out how to reissue that key, where do you put it. And in our case, we have Power Automate that can expire. We have SAS tokens for Azure storage. I'm sure we have some other tokens in DevOps. We have our BC license that we also have pulling in DevOps for our test pipelines. Don't get me started. I don't have the answer. It's brutal. So that stopped working. So we're solving like 27 problems along the way for one field in one report extension. Literally 3 days of elapsed time just to get the pipeline to run, to drop our artifact, and to do our normal procedure. So it was really tempting to have Franklin just email the file out. But I said, nope, we are going to experience the pain, figure out the problem. We will not make exceptions, like never leave your wingman, right? Right, Mav? That's where we're at. Never leave your DevOps. Barista training in Berlin, El Salvador. Let me tell you, I've been doing espresso for a couple years now, and we have quite the barista crew in Berlin. That is the new Berlin, El Salvador coffee room setup, and I consider it pretty fancy, let me tell you. That on the left is the Eureka Mignon Zero grinder. Yes, I thought it was pretty good. This one, not so great. It's an older model, has some run out issues on the burrs. So it'll do for Berlin, but hey, you got to pick your battle. So that is the fancy single dose grinder that we have for espresso in Berlin. I have a hand grinder for pour over. And that is a Breville Bambino Bambino Plus, something like that. So Ted says, Power Automate to check expiration dates and warn. Perhaps, but it's not really published anywhere. So you're checking 27 places, know where those expiration dates are. I think when we create the APIs, the keys, certificates, whatever, you just got to consistently record them and have alerts, have calendar reminders, Outlook. I don't know the answer. It just requires a level of organization and discipline we do not have. But that's actually a good question. Let me just send a quick, I'll send a note to Franklin and our senior dev, Dave, and we'll just try to figure out how do we keep on top of this mess. Yes. Oh, satire. Thank you, Ted. I now get it. Ted recommended using an unreliable Power Automate flow to check for expirations as to when the other Power Automate flow is going to fail. Thank you, Ted. Sorry. There's not enough coffee in the world on this morning of Friday where I could possibly have caught that. Sorry, I'm very slow right now. Anyway, back to coffee, which I need more of. We got the Breville Bambino Plus. I was able to snag one remanufactured Breville on the Breville site. I think it was only $340 versus the normal price of $500. It shipped faster than Breville normally ships, and I got it the day before I went to El Salvador. I tested it 10 o'clock at night, threw it in my luggage, and took it over to El Salvador. It survived a TSA inspection, amazingly. And yeah, it is up and running. I grabbed a bag of Stumptown. That's like all I had. I was running out of coffee at home. And we've got the digital coffee scale. So We are pretty dialed. I'm venture to say it's the fanciest home setup in Berlin, El Salvador. So I'm pretty happy. Now we just got to work on the milk situation in El Salvador. That's a whole different thing. They have different leche than we do in the U.S. And because of our visit to the secret roastery location in El Salvador, we got the block, which is the name for the 5 pound bag of coffee, $11 a pound, which, if you're in the know, that's a pretty good price. That is absurd by El Salvador standards, but it's a good price by US premium coffee standards. So at $11 a pound, 5 pound bag, that's 46.50 cents per shot, per double shot. And it's roughly 126 double shots of espresso. So the office will be caffeinated for a while. And that is a bag of Toragos for reference. Picked up 4 of those bad boys to take home. And let me tell you, Ronald picked up the barista duties like crazy. Like first time he was dialed. Like he's got to figure out on each coffee how to dial in the shot timer, but man, he had all the steps, like no stress. I was freaking out when I first did this, but he's like, boom, boom, boom. And he's like pulling the shots off left and right. Very impressive. So he must have studied some YouTube videos or something because he's got it down from the portafilter funnel to the distributor, to the tamper, to the timer, you name it. So pretty advanced setup we got going on there. And, yeah, that's what we're looking like in the office. So, I mean, I was pretty happy. So we got multiple coffee options now. So, hey, cheers. The cyber upgrade of De Semana is Microsoft 365 Business Premium. Now, my cybersecurity intern and I worked on this to learn about it. We do not have a dedicated IT staff. We do not have a dedicated cyber something or other, whatever that role is. So we learned about Microsoft 365 Business Premium, and that includes Defender for Business, which I don't think is anything to write home about. Defender for Office 365 Plan 1, which I do think is worthwhile. Entra P1 Conditional Access, which I do think is worthwhile. Purview and Intune, which I'm not very enamored by. So Defender for Business, I think, is just like whatever. Purview and Intune look like just thrown together. I don't know where they came from, but not very usable for most people that I would know. But the two, Defender for Office and Entra P1 Conditional Access, I think those alone are worth the oh, I see I made a mistake. That's not $12.50 per month. It's like, hold up. Let me do some math. Calc 264 divided by 12, $22 a month. Sorry, on the M365 Business Premium. Let me just do some corrections on the fly there because that is kind of relevant. What is that? $22? Okay, so that's $22 a month for premium. I think it's worth the additional $10 a month. I know it's per user, it's per expensive, but trust me, when you get phished, a user gets phished and you get compromised, the Office 365 Plan 1 improved email filtering and phishing resistance, I think is worthwhile. And then the Entra P1 Conditional Access, if you can leverage that, if you have a technical resource who can utilize it, it's pretty cool what it can do. I got a SOC notification from one of our customers. They use an external third-party security operations center cybersecurity firm. Pretty dialed in. So I think I have more information on that I'll share. They detected my login activity to their BC environment and sent an immediate alert, had a call with the customer to ask them about my activity. That was done through conditional access. Pretty impressive. So I'm going to be setting that up for our organization, all our users internationally. So I do recommend upgrading that if you have the budget. I think it's worth it. In default configuration, It's good. It's got the phishing protection and conditional access, but I think it's worth upgrading and configuring conditional access. Anyway, moving on. Upcoming event, Próximos Eventos, Summit NA, October 2023. I may try to go. I won't be at the full conference with registration and all that, but I may be in Orlando with my partner in crime, Tanya Henderson, because she/we are sponsoring the BC Bash in Orlando. Location to be determined or announced. Directions EMEA. Speaker selections, I believe, are coming through this week. November 4th through 6th in Poland. And that's in Poznan. Not sure how to say that. If you're traveling to Poland, make sure to verify Poland visa requirements. Okay, I think US is okay. Canada's probably okay. Europe is probably, Europe, just double check the visa requirements. And anywhere else, definitely triple check Poland visa requirements. They apparently have tightened up their visa requirements and border restrictions. Dynamics Minds next year, May 25th through 27th, Slovenia. I hear that is where all the cool kids go. I am not cool, so I have not gone, but maybe someday. It's quite a trip for me. So Thursday, Jueves. That was just yesterday. 12 to 13 hours of travel for me. 3-hour drive from Berlin to the airport. Thank you very much, Ronald. Holy cow, he's a trooper. I don't know how he does it. I wouldn't do it. I'd say take a shuttle, take a driver. 2-hour wait at the airport after some pollo campero and Chinese food. And the Aviaca Lounge that was hot and smelled like shrimp. Not even joking. And then the 5-hour flight, Chivo, Perfecto. We got in an hour early, and then an hour ride home in an illustrious Uber, which was a Prius V with over 400,000 miles. It's a museum piece. Very impressive. So I made it home last night, so not much to talk about yesterday other than that. DynamicsCon Regionals, September 4th in Copenhagen, September 17th in Dallas. Double check those dates. Friday, Viernes, that is today. I have at least 3,000 emails to catch up on from the last week. I'm not envying that. I'm not looking forward to that. And on the flight back, tried to sleep a little, listen to some music, and I decided to watch some of the thrilling Avianca movie selections, many of them old. And I've seen this movie poster in whatever feed. I don't think I'd watched it. And it's called 300. And very interesting movie. Lots of kind of weird half CGI, half real scenes with kind of these very strange kind of look. Interesting. Not bad, but interesting. And the Avianca movie quality, it was right up there with a bad pirated movie, I swear. Like, it was stretched or squashed or something. The aspect ratio was off, and the audio was so bad. It was like, a bad MP3 that had been ripped 17 times and compressed and coming out of a tin can. It was horrible. So I think I'm going to try to rewatch it. I'm going to collapse on the sofa later today. Try to rewatch it in proper, like normal quality, like 1980s quality, and see what it should look like. So anyway, that is my Friday after get more coffee and some lunch. Tanya canceled my call because her Starlink is mega flaky. I guess there's some cloud cover. I didn't realize how affected Starlink was by weather. I need to look it up and research it, but normally her Starlink is tolerable when she is out on the mountain or by the river, but man, it was just really bad this week. So we're canceling the call and we're going to try it this weekend or Monday. So that is Viernes and Summit NA Roadshows, Charlotte, September 9th. Then we have Houston, December 9th, Fort Lauderdale, December 11th. Of course, double check those dates and the excellence update. Oh, wow. I still had some fancy slide in there. Need to remove that. Jocelyn is diving into the deep end of financial reports, and that includes Business Central financial reports. And her first financial report had to be with a client with like 10,000 GL accounts. I don't know if that's going to be whittled down, but she opened the Excel file, showed it to me, and I'm like, whoa, it is nutso. Um, I, I don't even know what I'm looking at. It's like GL account nightmare. Um, Thousands and thousands of accounts with these codes and these sub accounts. And I'm just like, whoa. So we need to figure out what that's going to look like in BC. Even Tanya kind of like paused when she saw what was going on. So that's going to require some massive consolidation. I am a little concerned about performance given the number of accounts involved. And if they're slicing and dicing in multiple ways, it is going to be a performance issue based on my experience with one customer. So she's simultaneously learning BC financial reports and how those reports will be done in Power BI because Tanya creates some pretty complex Power BI financials. So Jocelyn, put on your helmet, carry your shield from Sparta, and go forth and do battle with GL account. David is finishing up some report layouts for that same customer, waiting for some customizations, and he's learning a little about PT design and Simple Object Designer. So if Tanya is able to figure out that Simple Object Designer customization, David will inherit that. Ronald continues with continued document capture. He is going to look at InsightWorks Import-Export Power Tool just to be familiar with that. We don't think we have a use for it, but as a potential alternative to configuration packages. I know a lot of people like it, like the InsightWorks ones. I don't know that it really solves problems any better necessarily than configuration packages, but we're just going to check it out, or he's going to check it out, just so we're up to speed with it to see where it might play a role. And Franklin continues work on custom file imports. We have a partner who wants several of those. And there's a debate. Configuration package, import export power tool, E1 Smart Connect, some other, iPass solution. You spend a lot of money with the iPass, lots of complexity. You need someone technical. You have consulting time around all those integrations. It may be an option if you have 5, 10 plus integrations, and custom integrations are not an option. And it may not be an option to do configuration package because those just don't get usable. Those become unusable at some point for end users. Yeah, Ted, I know you've used InsightWorks, but the main request we have from this partner is they do not want to copy any data into a template. They're getting some data set from other systems and they want to use that data file. They don't want to touch the data file. They don't want any user interaction. They want their data file to be created. They want to automatically create customers and invoices if they do not exist, all from the same file. So it's that type of thing. And they want defaults. They want field mappings. And so that's where we're going with custom file imports. And I don't think either configuration packages or InsightWorks or any other basic data load tool is the appropriate solution for daily or weekly import of thousands of transactions. So we're looking into this. What's a good solution? We're happy to build a custom file import, but obviously it takes time. Yes, we are investigating it for other options. So Ronald is going to look into it just to get a lay of the land and be familiar with it. But I'm not sure that it's going to really raise the bar for us or meet the bar for us. Fatima, welcome, Fatima. Project management. I would like Fatima to do PMI, PMP training and become PMP project management certified. So she is going to be taking some PMP training courses in Espanol and come up to speed on that as she learns English. And she will start to help me manage the Berlin team for project management. And also, Fatima is doing project management of the El Coyolar Christmas Festival. Thank you, Fatima, David, and Jocelyn for helping out with that. We are coming up with a project plan, being the geeks that we are. I have a full project plan. I have a or Jocelyn is helping build the budget with Fatima, and we are looking to host that for roughly 150 kids in the El Coyolar Canton. We're going to have toys, we're going to have a Santa or what they call a clown, balloon animals, music, and fun activities, piñatas, games, prizes. We're hoping to get a trampoline this year because bouncy castles are pretty cost prohibitive in El Salvador. So they do what they call a trampoline, which is your traditional trampoline. And yeah, and food, good time. So we're looking in the $2,000 budget range this year to kind of do things right and properly accommodate the crowd. We're probably going to be over 200 people there. So logistics is non-trivial with that, and we will be looking for sponsors for the El Coyola Christmas Festival. I have one partner who's already asked to sponsor. We are talking to an ISV to help sponsor that. So we will be in touch with a couple of potential sponsors. And Fatima will also be leading the charge of our Berlin office network redesign that will involve running Cat5 strategically and doing a full Unify wireless network with a controller, multiple access points, hardwired weather cam. Maybe we'll run some hardwires in the classroom to reduce Wi-Fi usage because the concrete and steel walls are just not conducive to Wi-Fi. So she is going to be busy on top of learning English. Yeah. And Berlin English Academy, I mentioned a couple times already. Ronald is leading the charge there. Really amazing to see the students stepping up, showing up 3 times a week at night, anywhere from 6:30 to 9:30, really just spending a lot of time learning very, very seriously. So that is Edgar and Fabricio doing a team exercise, and that is Melvin and Franklin who helps out with the process, even though he's already on our ERP Center of Excellence team learning Business Central, and his English is quite good. And then we have Mauricio and Daniela and Fatima, other Fatima, also participating. So they are doing exercises. So really great job. And this is the first wave of Berlin English Academy in order to prepare for October interviews for remote call center work, which is in English. And the idea is that they apply and do this call center work in order to force them to constantly use English all day long. And maybe they'll interview and, they won't get the job. Maybe they will. We'll see. The holiday call center position, we think maybe more text-based, chat-based support with the US. So for, video games or other product support from holiday packages and gifts. So that's what we're hoping for, because that puts them into the cauldron of a El Salvador English call center where you absolutely have to use English constantly, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. So that's the goal. And once they get out of there, they should have pretty good grasp of conversational English. And that is Franklin doing his evening conversational English class. Even though he graduated from E4CC, he chose to continue that conversational class. And this is where they meet with other participants and they literally just have conversation. They propose a topic, they give an exposition, and then they have a slight debate or conversation, like talking pros and cons of a particular topic. And he is there from 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. in our office, working late, doing these conversational classes. So really, really impressive work through Berlin English Academy and the E4CC students. Great job. And our contribution to this process, in addition to sponsoring the scholarships every month for the E4CC scholarships and students, once a month, Berliner gets a scholarship for 10 months of English classes. Berlin English Academy is the follow-on for those graduates to help take them to the next level. And thank you, Fatima. She helped Ronald, where we set up an entire test call center environment. We have all of our extra ThinkPad laptops. She gets them set up, plugs them in, gets headsets, tests them, gets them into Teams. So we have the full office just redeployed to become a mock call center for the Berlin English Academy students. So yeah, pretty hardcore, folks. You know, moment's notice, we can roll this out, and we have a team to help support it. So thanks, Ronald and Fatima, for making that happen. And oh, I already mentioned the call center training. While I was there, I helped out with mock call center calls, and that is me bald. Yep. So that's Ronald and the team. We were doing a debrief from the mock call center calls. One round was they were airline agents taking calls for airline reservations, which is a very complex process for a new English speaker. It is really, really challenging, let me tell you. No joke. So if you call a call center, customer support, what is going on behind the scenes, you have no idea. They are multitasking 10 things as they're talking to you. So that is really challenging for these new English speakers. And that is the team there. Great job. We did medical appointments the second night. That was Wednesday night. So it was a lot of fun. It was quite funny. We had a kind of fun moments joking about some of the little mistakes that were made on those calls, but they're learning. They're getting experience for the first time. For a Berliner, this is really wild experience, so it's really fantastic. And the goal is to make them potential candidates for these interviews in the fall, or for the holiday call center job and potential other jobs. So, okay, El fin de semana. That is hopefully me this weekend. I've already been informed that I'm taking my wife and daughter to the airport so that they can fly to, I think it's Rhode Island, to go see Brown College Campus Tour. So not so much sleep for me. I have no idea when I need to take them to the airport, but that is my life goal for this weekend. El fin de semana, sleep. So that is what's going on. Anyway, have a good weekend. Learn some Business Central. Enjoy some craziness. Eat some pupusas, drink some coffee, get some rest, watch a good movie. Okay. Thanks for joining. Adios. Nos vemos. Que la vaya bien.